Rated TVMA. It started with a book, then a look. And though she's now well over 40, nothing about Lolita has aged. She still has the capacity to charm and to shock, to break the heart of a man and a filmmaker.
Ah, boys.
This is the tale of how three creative artists fought the odds to bring her story to the world.
I wonder, can't help it if I wonder.
She was low, playing low in the morning, standing 4 feet 10 in one sock. She was Lola in slacks. She was Dolly at school. She was Dolores on the dotted line. But in my arms, she was always Lolita.
I like movies that create discussion. I love it. I love it when they haven't forgotten about your movie by dinner time afterwards. You know, and they're still arguing about it the next day. That's what a movie should do. It should make you argue and disagree.
Victor, take 4.
I wanted to make a movie of Nabokov's novel because it's, I think, one of the great novels of this century.
I don't think you'll find too much argument on that score. I think, you know, people who know literature and scholars of every stripe have long acclaimed this book as maybe the greatest American novel of the post-war period.
The story is about Humbert Humbert, a middle-aged man obsessed by a young girl.
Monsieur Humbert.
Yes.
It's set in 1947.
Mrs. Hayes.
And he stays as a lodger with a lady called Charlotte Hayes in New England.
That's my low.
And there he meets Lolita, who's Charlotte's daughter. In the end, it's a love story. It's a strange and awful love story.
One cannot hope to understand an author if one cannot even pronounce his name, he used to say. It's Vladimir, as in Redeemer, Nabokov. I don't fish, cook, dance, endorse books, sign declarations, eat oysters, get drunk, go to analysts, or take part in any demonstrations. I'm a mild old gentleman, very kind, and very provocative, for out of the late Russian-born writer's imagination sprang one of the world's most celebrated and controversial novels.
Lolita, light of my life, fire of my loins, my sin, my soul, Lolita, the tip of the tongue taking a trip of 3 steps down the palate to tap it free on the teeth, Lolita.
Lolita was first published in 1955 in Paris, after 4 American publishers rejected the manuscript. Banned in England and France by officials who never even bothered to read it, the novel languished in obscurity until writer Graham Greene called it one of the 3 best books of the year. In 1958, Lolita finally came out in America, where it sat at the top of the bestseller list for 6 months. Everyone bought a copy, with the possible exception of Groucho Marx, who quipped, "I'm going to put off reading Lolita for 6 years. I'm waiting till she turns 18. The novel was both acclaimed as a masterpiece and denounced in the name of virtue. The town of Lolita, Texas, was so skittish it nearly renamed itself over the book. In 1962, director Stanley Kubrick and producer James B. Harris put Lolita on the screen.
Lolita!
Lolita.
Lolita!
Stanley and I were determined to acquire it, in spite of all the warnings and all of the pundits of the business who said, you'll never get this picture made.
How did they ever make a movie of Lolita?
How did they?
They actually used that line in the sales campaign of the picture, saying, how did they ever make a film of Lolita? Of course, we were holding ourselves wide open for criticism because I believe the New York Times says they didn't.
Broadway at dusk, And as the lights go on, the News of the Day camera records the welcome for Lolita, the film the whole town's talking about.
The movie was, and remains, highly regarded, except by its author. Although Nabokov was officially credited as screenwriter and nominated for an Academy Award, Kubrick rewrote most of his script.
My father, when he saw the film, said, it makes me feel like a patient traveling supine in an ambulance, watching the landscape go by and powerless to change it.
To satisfy the motion picture code censors and the Legion of Decency, the filmmakers focused on the more humorous elements of the novel, even allowing Peter Sellers to largely improvise his scenes.
I think that there's a danger of being too reverent to a novel. But equally, I wanted to do a film that really represented the novel more accurately, without being maniacal about it, than I thought that the Kubrick movie did. The Kubrick movie was a great movie, but the Peter Sellers character, I thought, was more important than the James Mason character was.
I noticed when you was checking in, you had a lovely, pretty little girl with you. She was really lovely. As a matter of fact, she wasn't so little, come to think of it. She was fairly tall, little. Well, I mean, taller than little, you know what I mean? But she was really lovely. I wish I had a lovely, pretty, tall, lovely little girl like that. I mean...
Well, that's my daughter.
Your daughter? Gee, isn't it great to have a lovely, tall, pretty, little, small daughter like that? It's really wonderful.
In the novel, the Quilty character is shadowy. You think sometimes that he just exists in Humbert's imagination, in his paranoia. And so I just wanted to do a movie that reflected more the novel.
I cannot tell you the exact day when I first knew with utter certainty that we were being followed. He was clever, our pursuer. He kept changing cars. But his presence was as real to me as my own breath.
Quilty represents the tension in the movie, whether he's following him in the car or whether Humbert sees him in the shadows at the on the porch at the Enchanted Hunters.
Who's the little lassie?
It's my daughter.
You lie. She's not.
What?
I said July was hot.
The side of Humbert that has no redemption at all. The side of Humbert that is unforgivable. That is Quilty.
Oh, you know, I adore children myself. And fathers. I love fathers. It's very hard to pass up a part like Claire Quilty. I think he's Humbert without a conscience, Humbert without any sense of soul or without any sense of consequence. He likes you. Doesn't like everybody.
Who's he like?
Nice, young people like you. When faced with the challenge of casting the role of Lolita, Nabokov declared, let them find a dwarfess. When it was his turn, Adrian Lyne was looking for magic.
In the end, you're not casting two separate actors. You're not casting Jeremy Irons. You're not casting Dominic Swain. You're casting what happens when they're together. You're casting the sum of the two.
Murder me like you murdered my mother!
Stop that!
Stop it! Murder me!
Stand up!
I think I've always been attracted to characters that have enigma, that have many levels, that make the audience question whether they are good or bad.
I'm just thrilled with Jeremy, really. He's a hell of an actor. He was born to be Humbert. Nobody else could have done it better.
Humbert, is she keeping you up?
I beg your pardon?
You're about to shut the door, even start. Dominic Swain was a natural, really. I mean, she'd never acted on any level at all, not even at school. She'd done nothing. And she had less nerves, I would say, than any actor I've ever worked with. And she really kind of played herself.
Make her take a power class late tomorrow.
Me?
Mm-hmm. She'll do anything you say. She's getting a thing about you.
She would endlessly invent stuff for me. I mean, there's a scene where Lolita takes her retainer out of her mouth and puts it in Humbert's drink to kind of embarrass him in front of her mother.
Whisper, whisper. What are you two so cozy about?
And I asked her to do something that would surprise me. I would never tell her what to do, and she would always offer up stuff like that, and it was great in the movie. It was funny.
All right, let's bring that car back there, can we, boys?
Even before Lolita wrapped, the filmmakers found themselves defending their artistic freedom.
There are a number of people who probably won't see the film and will condemn it. People who think that the mere depiction of a thing is an endorsement of a thing.
I'm sleepy today.
Me too.
I've been having trouble sleeping.
I can't imagine.
The idea that I can't make this movie, that I can't touch this subject because it's contentious, because it makes people uncomfortable, because, you know, I should sweep it under the carpet, that's got to be wrong, hasn't it? Even if you disagree about this movie, and of course everybody will disagree about it, they disagreed about the novel, but at least they'll be arguing, at least they'll be discussing, at least they'll be airing a problem.
I don't believe that people who behave badly are necessarily nasty people. I think nice people do terrible things. People who we could like at dinner do terrible things. And I think that's what's interesting about behavior, about humanity. Adrian and I both talked about this beforehand, how we must keep the audience with Humbert.
Don't say I never gave you anything.
I don't think we ever believed it was what we should do was to make him excusable. I think wrong is never excusable.
Lolita opened to critical praise in Europe and Asia, yet for more than a year, Line found himself unable to get his film shown in America.
I was told by 3 heads of studio that they wanted the movie, and then suddenly...
I wonder at your blunder.
These people kind of faded away. I mean, it was extraordinary, really, and I understood that corporate decisions were being taken not to get involved in this subject matter, not to touch this. I've heard it many, many times.
Jeremy Irons heard things too.
I'm not used to having to justify the work I do. I'm an actor. I'm employed to play roles. When I'm asked to play Richard III, I don't expect to have to justify playing somebody who seduces the wife of the person he's just murdered. Difficult behavior. But I don't expect to have to justify that behavior, and I'm sorry that I have to justify so much and have been, in some quarters, criticized for taking on a role such as Humbert.
But criticism doesn't deter everybody. Showtime, recognizing the artistic merits of Lolita, stepped up to present its exclusive U.S. premiere, allowing audiences to make their own judgments.
I think the important thing that I tried to avoid doing at the end of the movie, really, is moralizing. What the audience maybe will find disturbing is that they don't hate Humbert. At least they don't totally hate him. They kind of like him in some ways.
Someone in the family, maybe you, ought to instruct that dear child in the process of human reproduction.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I didn't want Humbert to be just a one-note villain, you know, because in the novel he's not. He's hateful, but he's funny, and he's heartbreaking, and he's a lot of different things. And in the end, he loved her.
He's a very appealing character, even though he's a monster. And I think an audience can hold those two ideas in their head at the same time.
Yes, it is something that happens in society. It's not something that should be condoned or encouraged. But it's something that is. And the arts have to shed light upon, question, cover everything that happens in life.
You're a monster.
A classic is a book that has stood the test of time and that continues to inspire and to ring true. Lolita will last as long as there are readers to read it.
Or film lovers to watch it.
I think that the creative artist is in exile in his study, in his bedroom, in the circle of his lamplight. He's quite alone there. He's the lone wolf. Because as soon as he is together with somebody else, he shares his secret, he shares his mystery, he shares his God with somebody else.
By myself alone at home, feeling blue. Thoughts keep roaming through my mind. They're all of you. I wonder if you're dancing with somebody new. I wonder, I wonder. I wonder.
Don't know why.
Showtime presents one of the most talked about, written about, controversial movies of the year. Lolita. The New York Times calls it stunning and emotionally gripping. The most dazzling is Mr. Iron's performance. Among his absolute best, the Wall Street Journal proclaims it a film for our time, and the New York Observer raves. Brilliant. Titanic swept the Oscars in a year when Lolita should have. Jeremy Irons, Melanie Griffith, Frank Langella, introducing Dominique Swain in a film directed by Adrian Lyne, Lolita. Next on Showtime.